So at the beginning, again, we saw what England can do with good front foot ball, okay? And the key to that, Billy Vunipola shrugged off 4 tackles, gets well over the gain line, brilliant handling. The big positive player to come out of the series for England, Johnny May, coming in the line, linking up, putting the try in, just beautiful. And you're thinking, okay, great, we know they can do that. And that is a positive. The attack coach has come in and it has coincided with really sharp attacking play on the front foot ball. Boom, he has to stay, give him a contract, job done. Then Billy's broken his arm. So even he started to look good at the beginning of that game. I'm not quite sure when he broke it. He's re-fractured the same arm, I believe. So there was a weakness there still by the sounds of it. So maybe it was going to go. But that's just a huge blow again for England. And just that first try, I think, just illustrated why Billy is so important and why Duane Vermeulen's been so good for South Africa. You know, that guy can take 2 or 3 players out of the game and get over the gain line, get the defence moving backwards, just gives your attack so many options. So, you know, Vermeulen, player of the series so far, got to be. Absolute rampaging ball, but in great shape, not overweight, just right. And South Africa just looked a bit unstoppable when they started to get into the game. England couldn't stop them on the gain line. They weren't gaining any dominance in the scrum. South Africa was squeezing them there. Their runners just seemed more dynamic, like the South Africa hooker. You know, definitely got the best of Jamie George in open play. Jamie George hasn't quite stepped up as we thought he might. And the whole of the England front row didn't do that great. Resulted in Maka Vunipola getting frustrated and flicking that guy's head. I was convinced it was a yellow card with a push to the head, a slap to the head, but he got away with it. I think he's going home for personal reasons. Maybe that was something to do with it, and I don't know. But anyway, the physical edge was South Africa's, and that's a worry. I'll talk about the England Under-20s World Cup final, where France actually physically dominated New Zealand in the semis and England in the semis, and you just can't win, or it's very hard to win when you're getting dominated physically. So we'll come back to that, what England maybe they could have done, I don't know. But just finishing on South Africa, you know, we did say Pollard is their 10, we think, and he stepped up and showed he is, so that's great news for them. Their overseas players back in, some of their domestic players stepping up. Brilliant for rugby, brilliant for South African rugby. I think they're definitely back on the map now. Love it. South Africa, typically physical team, and that's what they did to England and some. So anyway, let's get on to England negatives, because this is fun. Not really, but please tell me if I'm being overly critical or not critical enough. Firstly, I'll just raise the petulance issue, which really irritated me, and I imagine it does for non-England fans as well looking on. There was lots of answering back, there was lots of unnecessary pushing and shoving. I know you got to front up, but it just looked unnecessary. Stupid penalties in both games. Now what I'll say is that, yeah, sure, coaches can try and influence that, but really it comes down to personal choice and personality. You know, you guys know, if you're part of a rugby club, there's always 1 or 2 players that give away penalties or answer back to the ref or do stupid things, and that's just their personality. And you can talk to them till you're blue in the face, and it might not make much of a difference. So really, that's the individual players have to take responsibility, and if they don't, then they have to be dropped. I mean, I'm not saying an individual player, I'm not going to single one out to be dropped at this moment. I would actually add, that Farrell, even though he leads by example, playing-wise very well, the way he talks to the referee was embarrassing, really. It was, you know, it wasn't good. It was disrespectful, and I thought the referee, Romain Garcés, did a great job staying calm. You know, told him to go away at times, but really, that's not the way to get the referee on your side. You got to tell them what's what and say, look for this, look for that, what about this? But you know that if you speak to them in that manner, that whinging, aggressive tone, it's not going to help. You know, watch Sam Warburton do it. He's an expert. Watch when Richie McCaw did it. Fantastic. That's how you do it. You're forceful. You're proactive. You say what you think, but you do it in a respectful manner. So I think that was poor. Comment if you think I'm being harsh or you agree. You know, and England just couldn't control this match. Like the last match, when they get into phase play, their forwards aren't making dominant carries. They're not getting over the gain line, and then they're struggling and forcing it. And South Africa's defence was excellent. So, let's basically rewind a little bit. What did we say on this channel before the tour? Well, one of the big things was I wouldn't have taken any of the British and Irish Lions on that tour. I think they need a rest. The statistics say they need a rest. Players after that many minutes, increased likelihood of injury. But Eddie's doing what he thinks is best, kind of ignoring what the Irish model and what the other teams are doing by resting and rotating players, and he just took them all. And now by a 2-0, maybe 3-0 loss, they've just been ground into the ground, and that's compounded the issue. So maybe if they'd won the series, you'd say, yeah, you got away with it. That makes sense now. But it just didn't make sense to take all those Lions, all those players that have played so many minutes, and even more so now. So I think that was mistake number one. Okay. Just a few small things for that selection. In our selection video, we were saying we need to beef up this pack. We're getting physically bullied. It might have happened anyway, but I definitely would have selected Williams at tight head. I think he's a lot more solid character. And another omission from the touring party was people that someone we've been calling for, and pretty much everyone else, is Don Armand. That game would have been set up for Don Armand. Hard as nails, don't take a step backwards. He would have been possibly perfect. But it's hypothetical, we don't know. But those two players, I think, would have helped. So I think there's two more mistakes there that we had identified. Maybe less in this match, but just in general and as a rule, the England midfield just does not work. I've said it so many times. In attack on the front foot ball, brilliant. Creativity, ball movement, fine. Good. It's got kicking, no problem. But what high-quality international midfield lacks any pace or any power? It's ridiculous. You can't expect to be one of the best in the world, if all the best in the world is that they're aiming to be, without power and pace in your midfield. It's stupid. It just doesn't make any sense. The problem is, what can you do about it? Well, possibly not a lot. Pace-wise at 13, the only guy on tour you could do is put Elliot Daly at 13, which does make sense because he probably is a 13. That's where he made his name at Wasps. So that might be a way to go for selection, but we'll do selection in another video. In the future, obviously, Jonathan Joseph is an option. Jack Nowell's been touted as an option. So they're all possible to bring pace into 13. Power into 12, yeah, is a problem, certainly. I mean, if Tio's fit, maybe, but not sure he's proved himself yet. Tuolangi's not fit, but he would be perfect if he gets fit. I mean, I've had plenty of comments saying, well, why can't Sam Simmonds change to 12? And his physical characteristics are perfect for international 12, but he's made the decision to be a back row, and I think it's too late. So whatever that decision was, maybe it was the wrong one in hindsight. But England are seriously lacking options at 12, and that midfield is not going to be good enough in a lot of situations. In front foot ball, it looks decent, and everything else, it looks a liability. Anyway, leave that there. I was happy with Curry and Shields, actually. I think they did okay. I don't think they got the better of their opposition. But Shields did some good stuff, and he's worth another look. He's not that massive ball carrier, but he does do a lot of good stuff. Curry has held his own. I think he's only 20, maybe even less. In a few years, he's going to be a lot better. Anyway, so happy-ish, but they didn't dominate the game. So selection next video. So basically, I think the net players needed a rest. South Africa always had the edge in that game, and England were just very unlikely to win. Can they gain a physical edge? I don't know. Big changes maybe coming for England. I think they stick with Eddie Jones. I don't think that would help to change the coach, certainly. He has shown he's recognised issues. He's brought in an attack coach. That has helped. He now needs to think about the power of his side, getting over the gain line, the balance of the midfield, and there may be some big changes coming up. Maybe, it needs to be Farrell at 10 and then beef up the midfield. Maybe it needs to be Armand in at 6. I don't know, but I think we might see the return of Hartley and Cole very swiftly. The guys stepping in haven't really shown that they're above those guys. So those could be some changes as well. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think on that. that game South Africa-England. South Africa are awesome, England weren't good enough. What on earth can they do in the last match, if anything? What mistakes have been made? What can be done about it? Cool. Until next time, we will see you then.